The last of the luminary. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the EDF Horizon, her eyes fixed on the swirling purple depths of the Maelstrom Nebula. The massive gas cloud had confounded sensors and explorers for centuries, but today something was different. Faint energy signatures pulsed from within its depths, unlike anything humanity had encountered in their 50 years of space exploration. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. Dr. Marcus Rivera, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from his console. "The energy patterns are clearly artificial, Captain. They're too regular, too structured, but they're failing." He paused, frowning at his readings. "Whatever's generating them is dying." Sarah's fingers drummed against the armrest of her command chair. The Maelstrom lay far beyond Earth's claimed space, in a region where multiple alien empires held competing interests. The Earth Defense Force's standing orders were clear: observe, but do not interfere. Humanity was still too new to galactic politics to risk entanglements in affairs between the older species. But something about those fading energy signatures tugged at her conscience. "Take us in closer," she ordered. "Maximum stealth protocols." The Horizon glided forward, its advanced dampening fields masking its presence. As they penetrated the nebula's outer layers, the ship's sensors began picking up more detail. The energy signatures resolved into distinct patterns, almost like heartbeats. "Captain," Rivera's voice cracked with excitement, "these readings, they're biological. We're detecting approximately 300 distinct entities composed almost entirely of pure energy. They appear to be sentient." Sarah leaned forward in her chair. "Sentient energy beings? That's impossible. The only species like that was—" She stopped, her eyes widening. "The luminary. But they were supposedly wiped out decades ago." The luminary had been legends in the galaxy, a species of pure energy capable of manipulating fundamental forces. Their abilities had made faster-than-light travel possible for countless civilizations, but their gift had become their curse when the hegemony, the galaxy's dominant power, decided they were too valuable to remain free. The luminary had refused to be enslaved, and paid the ultimate price. Or so everyone had thought. "They're in distress," Rivera reported. "Their energy patterns are destabilizing. Without intervention, they'll dissipate within days." Sarah felt the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. The luminary weren't just refugees. They were living artifacts of a civilization that had helped build the foundations of galactic society. Their knowledge and abilities could revolutionize human understanding of the universe. But helping them would have consequences. The hegemony still claimed ownership of all luminary assets, living or otherwise. Offering them sanctuary would be seen as theft at best, and an act of war at worst. "Captain," her first officer, Commander James Santos, spoke quietly. "The Prime Directive doesn't apply to genocide." Sarah cut him off. She stood, her decision made. "Open a channel. All frequencies." The communications officer complied, and Sarah took a deep breath. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force vessel Horizon. We've detected your distress and stand ready to offer assistance. Please respond." For long moments, only static answered. Then, a voice like singing crystal filled the bridge. "We are the last of the luminary. We have hidden here since the Great Purge, but our energy fades. We cannot maintain corporeal form much longer." "We can help," Sarah replied. "The Horizon has advanced containment facilities. We can provide safe harbor and stabilization." "The risk is too great," the crystalline voice wavered. "The hegemony still hunts us. We cannot ask another species to bear our burden." Sarah smiled grimly. "You're not asking. We're offering. Humanity doesn't stand by while innocent beings suffer, not even when helping them comes at a cost." There was a long pause then. "Your offer honors us, Captain Chen. But you must understand, if you shelter us, the hegemony will never forgive this transgression. They will come for us, and for you." Sarah looked around her bridge at the determined faces of her crew. Humans had dreamed of the stars for millennia, imagining a galaxy filled with wonders and possibilities. Now they faced their first true test. Would they cower before injustice to protect themselves, or stand up for what was right? "Let them come," she declared. "Humanity's first steps into the galaxy won't be marked by turning our backs on those in need. Begin emergency transport procedures. We're taking you home." As the Horizon's systems hummed to life, preparing to rescue the last survivors of a nearly extinct species, Sarah knew she had just changed the course of human history. Earth would face consequences for this decision, but they would face them standing tall. The rescue operation took hours of delicate work. The luminary existed as patterns of pure energy, requiring carefully calibrated containment fields to maintain their cohesion. One by one, they were transported aboard the Horizon, their ethereal forms casting soft, multicolored light through the ship's corridors. Sarah watched as the last of them was brought aboard, their collective presence making the very air thrum with potential. These beings had once helped build the foundations of galactic civilization. Now they would help humanity chart its own course among the stars, not through forced servitude, but through willing partnership. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. "Maximum speed. And send a priority message to command. Tell them." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Tell them humanity just made its first real allies in the galaxy, and we're going to need every ship we can muster to protect them." As the Horizon turned toward home, Sarah could already imagine the storm that was coming. But looking at the shimmering forms of the luminary, seeing hope return to a species that had nearly been extinguished, she knew she'd made the right choice. Humanity had taken its first real step into galactic politics. They had chosen mercy over convenience, justice over neutrality. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would Earth. The Horizon accelerated to FTL speed, carrying its precious cargo toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the Maelstrom Nebula slowly faded into the distance, no longer a hiding place for refugees, but the birthplace of a new chapter in human history. The price of mercy would be high, but humanity was ready to pay it. The cost of compassion. The emergency session of Earth's Global Defense Council erupted into chaos as soon as Captain Chen finished her report. The massive chamber, designed to showcase humanity's unity in space, now reflected its deep divisions. Representatives from every major nation shouted over each other, their voices echoing off the marble walls of the Geneva complex. "You've dragged us into a war we can't win." The Chinese representative slammed his fist on the podium. "The hegemony controls half the known galaxy. We've barely established our first extrasolar colonies." Sarah stood firm at the center of the storm. "With respect, Counselor, we couldn't leave them to die. The Luminary are sentient beings who chose freedom over slavery. They deserve our protection." "And what about our protection?" The Russian delegate's voice cut through the clamor. "The hegemony's fleet could glass our entire planet. We should turn them over now, while we still can." Admiral Helena Torres, commander of Earth's Defense Force, rose from her seat. The chamber fell silent. Torres rarely spoke at these sessions, but when she did, everyone listened. "The Luminary are already helping us," she stated, her weathered face stern. "In the week since the Horizon brought them to Earth, they've voluntarily shared innovations that have advanced our shield technology by decades. They don't want to be our servants. They want to be our allies." As if on cue, the chamber's lights flickered, and a shimmering form materialized in the center of the room. The luminary elder, whom they called Aurora, glowed with shifting patterns of blue and gold. Her voice resonated through the minds of everyone present. "We understand your fear," Aurora's thoughts echoed. "The hegemony's power seems absolute, but they are strong because they take what they want by force. We offer humanity a different path, partnership born of choice, not coercion." The Australian representative leaned forward. "But why us? We're barely a spacefaring civilization. Surely there were stronger allies you could have sought." Aurora's glow pulsed softly. We chose humanity because you still remember what it means to fight against overwhelming odds. Your history is filled with small nations and peoples standing up to empires. You understand that true strength comes not from superior weapons, but from the courage to defend what's right. Before anyone could respond, the chamber's emergency alerts blared to life. A junior officer rushed in, face pale. Multiple hegemony warships just emerged from FTL at the edge of our solar system. They're demanding immediate communication. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of High Commander Vexthor of the Hegemony Fleet. His scaled face showed no emotion, but his 6 eyes gleamed with barely contained rage. People of Earth, his translated voice boomed through the chamber. You harbor stolen hegemony property. Return the luminary immediately, or face the consequences of your theft. Sarah watched as the council members exchanged nervous glances. This was the moment of truth. Would humanity stand by its principles when faced with real danger? Admiral Torres stepped forward. The luminary are not property. They are refugees under Earth's protection. We reject your demand. Vexthor's expression didn't change. Then you choose destruction. The hegemony has classified Earth as a hostile power. All trade agreements are suspended. You have 48 Earth hours to reconsider before we begin military operations. The screen went dark, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. We need to evacuate the coastal cities, someone whispered. Begin moving people underground. No, Sarah spoke up. We need to show them we won't be intimidated. She turned to Aurora. You said the luminary could help enhance our technology. How quickly can we implement those improvements? Aurora's form brightened. With your permission, we can begin immediately. Every luminary stands ready to assist. We can strengthen your planetary shields, improve your weapons efficiency, enhance your FTL capabilities. But more importantly, we can show you how to use energy in ways your science has not yet imagined. Admiral Torres nodded grimly. Then we have 48 hours to prepare Earth's defenses, and we need to contact every human colony and ship in space. If the hegemony wants a fight, they'll learn that humanity protects its own, and the luminary are now our own. The next 2 days transformed Earth. Luminary worked alongside human scientists and engineers, their combined knowledge creating defensive systems that would have taken decades to develop otherwise. But it wasn't just military technology that changed. The luminary's presence awakened new possibilities in every field they touched. Hospital power systems became self-sustaining. Transportation grids operated at unprecedented efficiency. Communication networks expanded their reach and clarity. The luminary weren't just giving humanity weapons. They were showing them how to better use the fundamental forces of the universe itself. But more remarkable was the change in human society. The threat of invasion did what decades of diplomacy had failed to achieve. True global unity. Ancient rivals pooled their resources. Private companies opened their research facilities to government use. Volunteer lists for the Defense Force grew so long that systems crashed trying to process them. Sarah watched it all from the Horizon's bridge, now stationed as part of Earth's defensive line. The ship had been upgraded with luminary-enhanced systems. Its power output tripled. Similar modifications were being made to every vessel in the human fleet. The hegemony thinks we're primitive, she told her crew during their final briefing. They expect us to either surrender or be easily crushed. Instead, they're about to learn why humanity has survived every catastrophe our history has thrown at us. We adapt, we unite, and we never abandon our allies. As the deadline approached, Earth's transformed fleet took up defensive positions. They were still outnumbered, still technologically behind in many areas. But they had something the hegemony couldn't understand: the willing partnership of the very beings they had tried to enslave. The cost of compassion would be high. But as Sarah watched the hegemony fleet approach, she knew humanity would pay it gladly. Sometimes the right path was also the hardest, and humanity had chosen to walk it with their heads held high. Strength in unity. The first attack came exactly where Earth's strategists predicted: the Mars colony. The hegemony launched a swift strike against humanity's most vulnerable outpost, expecting an easy victory that would demonstrate the futility of resistance. They were wrong. As massive hegemony warships dropped out of FTL near the Red Planet, they encountered something unprecedented. The thin Martian atmosphere shimmered with an ethereal light, and their sensors detected energy patterns they hadn't seen since the Great Purge, but impossibly stronger. Multiple hegemony vessels detected, reported Lieutenant Emma Walsh from her station in the Mars Defense Center. 15 capital ships, 40 support vessels. They're launching fighters. Colonel David Okafor, commander of Mars Colony Defense, watched the tactical display with steady eyes. Around him, human technicians worked in perfect synchronization with hovering luminary forms, their combined efforts maintaining the experimental planetary shield that now enveloped Mars. "Begin Operation Firewall," he ordered. Across the Martian surface, hidden defense platforms activated. But instead of conventional weapons, each platform contained a partnership, human engineers working alongside luminary energy beings, their combined knowledge creating something entirely new. The hegemony fighters streaked toward the colony, their weapons charged. They expected to find minimal resistance, perhaps a few outdated defense satellites and ground-based weapons. Instead, they flew into a storm. The Martian atmosphere itself seemed to come alive. Streams of pure energy, guided by luminary consciousness and focused through human-built emitters, swept through space. Where they touched hegemony ships, shields failed and systems crashed. The fighters, their power cores disrupted by frequencies the luminary had discovered millennia ago, drifted powerless. "They're adapting," Emma announced, watching the tactical display. "Capital ships are changing shield frequencies." Colonel Okafor nodded. "Just as we expected. Initiate Phase 2. From behind Mars' 2 moons emerged Earth's first line of defense, a fleet of ships transformed by luminary technology. The vessels looked deceptively simple. Humanity hadn't had time for extensive external modifications. But inside each ship, human crews worked in concert with luminary partners, their vessels pulsing with combined power. Captain Sarah Chen, commanding the fleet from the upgraded Horizon, opened a channel to all ships. "Remember your training. Fight smart, not just hard. Show them what humanity and the luminary can do together." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The hegemony fleet, despite their superior numbers and technology, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight according to conventional rules. Human ships, their systems enhanced by luminary energy manipulation, moved in ways that should have been impossible. They anticipated enemy attacks before they came, their luminary partners sensing the energy buildups in hegemony weapons. When they struck back, it was with weapons that combined human innovation with luminary knowledge. Focused beams of energy that bypassed shields by shifting through dimensional frequencies the hegemony had never discovered. But it wasn't just the technology that made the difference. It was the way humans and luminary worked together, each species complementing the other's strengths. The luminary's ancient knowledge merged with humanity's talent for adaptation and improvisation, creating tactics that the hegemony's rigid military doctrine couldn't counter. "Their formation is breaking," Emma reported, her voice tight with controlled excitement. 3 capital ships disabled, 7 retreating. The rest are trying to regroup behind Phobos. Colonel Okafor allowed himself a small smile. They expected to find slaves and savages. Instead, they found equals fighting side by side. He opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, press the advantage. Don't let them regroup." The battle raged for hours, but its outcome was never really in doubt. The hegemony had built their empire on the assumption that might made right, that superior force always prevailed. They weren't prepared for an enemy that turned their own arrogance against them. By the time the last hegemony ship retreated into FTL, the message was clear: humanity would not be easily conquered. The Mars colony, far from being a vulnerable target, had become the site of the hegemony's first major defeat in centuries. In the aftermath, as human crews began recovery operations, Sarah Chen received a priority transmission from Earth. Admiral Torres' hologram appeared on the Horizon's bridge, her expression grave but satisfied. "Well done, Captain. The defense of Mars exceeded all expectations, but this was just the beginning. Our long-range sensors show multiple hegemony fleets mobilizing. They'll be back, and in greater numbers." Sarah nodded. "We'll be ready. The Luminary are already working on improvements based on what we learned today. And more importantly, we proved something crucial. We proved that willing cooperation beats forced submission every time." "Agreed." Torres' hologram flickered. "But we need to prepare for what comes next. The hegemony won't take this humiliation lightly. They'll throw everything they have at us now." "Let them come," Sarah replied, watching as her crew worked seamlessly alongside their luminary partners, already implementing improvements based on the battle's lessons. "Every attack makes us stronger. Every fight teaches us more. And unlike them, we're not afraid to learn and adapt." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to Aurora, who had manifested beside her command chair. The luminary elder's glow pulsed with what Sarah had learned to recognize as pride. "Your people continue to surprise us," Aurora communicated. "Where others see impossibility, you see opportunity. Where others break under pressure, you become stronger." Sarah smiled. "That's humanity for you. We're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. And now, with allies like you, we don't have to face the galaxy's bullies alone anymore." The stars shone steadily through the Horizon's view screen as human and luminary worked together to prepare for the battles ahead. The hegemony had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about their place in the galaxy. Instead, they were about to learn one themselves, about the true nature of power and the strength that comes from unity freely chosen. The massive hegemony armada emerged from FTL in waves, their ships darkening the space between Earth and Luna. 500 capital ships, thousands of support vessels, the largest fleet assembled in a millennium. High Commander Vexthor had committed nearly half of the hegemony's total military strength to crush the upstart humans and reclaim the Luminary. Admiral Helena Torres stood in Earth's primary defense command center, watching the tactical hologram with grim determination. Around her, the combined human luminary command staff monitored their positions. The ethereal glow of luminary energy beings mingled with the blue light of holographic displays, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. "They think quantity will overwhelm quality," she observed. "Time to prove them wrong. Initiate Operation Starbreak." Across the solar system, humanity's defense plan sprang into action. But it wasn't the desperate last stand the hegemony expected. Instead, they faced something unprecedented in galactic warfare. The space around Earth rippled as hundreds of micro-wormholes opened, a technology thought impossible until the luminaries shared their understanding of spatial mechanics. Through these tactical portals, Earth's ships could strike from any angle, their positions impossible to predict. "First wave entering effective range," reported Captain Chen from the Horizon, now serving as the fleet's mobile command center. "All ships report luminary partners linked and ready." The hegemony fleet launched their first strike, a massive barrage of energy weapons and kinetic projectiles that would have overwhelmed traditional defenses. But Earth's shields, now integrated with luminary energy manipulation, didn't just block the attacks. They absorbed them, redirecting the power back into their defensive grid. "They still don't understand," Aurora communicated from her position beside Torres. "They think of energy as a weapon. We see it as part of the universal dance, to be guided, not forced." The battle that followed shattered every convention of space warfare. Human ships, their systems merged with luminary consciousness, moved with impossible precision. Where the hegemony expected to find predictable defense patterns, they instead encountered an ever-shifting strategy that adapted faster than their tactical computers could analyze. But the real surprise came from Earth's colonies. As the hegemony committed their forces to the main assault, supposedly vulnerable human outposts revealed their true purpose. Each colony had been transformed into a nexus of human luminary cooperation, capable of projecting power in ways the hegemony had never imagined. From Mars, streams of focused energy lanced through space, guided by the combined consciousness of human operators and their luminary partners. The asteroid belt became a maze of spatial distortions, trapping enemy ships in pockets of warped spacetime. Even the small research base on Europa proved deadly, using the moon's ice sheets to generate massive electromagnetic pulses that disabled entire enemy squadrons. Multiple hegemony ships showing signs of power fluctuation, Sarah reported from the horizon. The frequency matching is working. Their cores can't handle the resonance patterns. This was humanity's true advantage. They hadn't just adapted luminary technology, they'd fundamentally changed how it was used. Where the hegemony had sought to enslave the luminary for their power, humans had asked for partnership, and in doing so, they'd discovered possibilities that forced servitude could never reveal. High Commander Vexthor's voice boomed across all frequencies, heavy with rage and disbelief. "This is impossible. You're nothing but primitives. How are you doing this?" Admiral Torres allowed herself a small smile before responding. "We learned something you never could, Commander. True power doesn't come from domination. It comes from cooperation. Every ship in our fleet carries both human and luminary crew, each contributing their unique strengths. We don't force them to power our ships. They choose to fight alongside us." As if to emphasize her point, the space around Earth began to glow. Thousands of luminary who had been in hiding across the galaxy, drawn by word of Earth's stand, emerged from concealment. They joined the battle not as slaves or power sources, but as warriors fighting for their freedom. The hegemony's rigid command structure began to crack. Ships designed to draw power from captive luminary found themselves outmaneuvered by vessels, where luminary served willingly. Tactics that had conquered 100 worlds proved useless against an enemy that rewrote the rules of physics itself. "Their fleet is fragmenting," Sarah announced. "We're detecting power failures across their command ships. They're losing coordination." But victory came with a cost. Human ships, while enhanced by luminary cooperation, weren't invincible. The Horizon's sensors registered dozens of Allied vessels lost, each crewed by brave humans and luminary who gave their lives to protect Earth. Then, something unexpected happened. In the midst of the chaos, signals began emanating from multiple hegemony ships. Not attacks, but communications. The impossible was happening. Ships were beginning to surrender. "This is the cruiser Dawn's Light," one transmission declared. "We request asylum. We've seen enough." The hegemony's lies about human primitiveness, about luminary servitude being necessary, they end today. More ships followed, their crews realizing that everything they'd been taught about power and control was wrong. The sight of humans and luminary fighting as equals, achieving things that forced servitude had never accomplished, sparked something that centuries of oppression couldn't extinguish: hope. High Commander Vexthor's flagship, surrounded by failing ships and crumbling strategies, finally retreated into FTL. The great armada that had arrived to teach humanity its place in the galaxy now fled, leaving behind a graveyard of broken ships and shattered assumptions. As the battle ended, Admiral Torres received a priority message from Earth's Global Defense Council. The hegemony's defeat had sent shockwaves through galactic society. Other subjugated species, inspired by humanity's example, were beginning to resist. The balance of power that had maintained the hegemony's control for centuries was crumbling. "We didn't just win a battle today," Torres told her combined human luminary staff. "We proved that there's another way. That cooperation beats coercion. That diversity breeds strength. And most importantly, that no species has the right to enslave another." The stars shone brighter somehow as Earth's fleet regrouped, their human and luminary crews already working to heal their wounded and repair their ships. They had faced the galaxy's greatest power and emerged victorious, not through superior force, but through the strength of willing alliance. The battle was over, but its impact was just beginning to ripple through the galaxy. Humanity had done more than defend itself. It had sparked a revolution in how species could work together. And in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history forever. A new dawn. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, the grand chamber of the newly established Galactic Concordat hummed with activity. Representatives from 100 species gathered in the massive space station orbiting Earth's moon, their voices mixing in a chorus of different languages and forms of communication. The station itself was a testament to human luminary cooperation, powered by freely given energy and built with combined knowledge. Captain Sarah Chen, recently promoted to admiral, stood at the observation deck, watching ships arrive through the massive transparent panels. Vessels of every size and design approached the station, each carrying delegates to this historic gathering. Beside her, Aurora's familiar glow pulsed with contentment. "Did you ever imagine this?" Sarah asked her luminary friend. "When you were hiding in that nebula, did you think your rescue would lead to all this?" Aurora's response rippled through Sarah's mind. "We hoped for survival. You gave us revolution." The revolution had come swiftly after the hegemony's defeat. Their military humiliation at Earth's hands had exposed the fundamental flaw in their philosophy of power. Species that had been subjugated for centuries saw proof that cooperation could overcome oppression. The hegemony's own ships had begun to rebel, crews inspired by the sight of humans and luminary fighting as equals. Within months, the hegemony's grip on power had crumbled. Without slaves to power their ships and run their systems, their mighty empire had collapsed under its own weight. But unlike previous galactic upheavals, this one didn't lead to chaos. Humanity, guided by their experience with the luminary, proposed a different path. "The delegates are ready," announced Admiral Torres, approaching them. Her uniform now bore the insignia of the New Earth Defense Force, modified to include a stylized representation of human luminary cooperation. "It's time." They entered the main chamber together, where representatives from former hegemony worlds sat alongside delegates from Earth's colonies and independent species. The circular design of the room emphasized their equality. No head table, no raised platforms, just beings of all forms gathered to forge a new future. Sarah took her place as Earth's representative, while Aurora joined the luminary delegation. Their positions side by side symbolized the partnership that had changed the galaxy's understanding of power. Former High Commander Vex Thor, now representing his people as equals rather than conquerors, rose to speak first. His once proud bearing was tempered by humility learned through defeat. "A year ago, I commanded the greatest fleet ever assembled," he began, his translated voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "I came to crush what I thought was a primitive species harboring valuable property. Instead, I found something that shattered everything we thought we knew about power." He gestured to the assembled delegates. "The humans didn't just defeat us militarily. They proved that willing cooperation achieves what force never could. Their partnership with the luminary accomplished things we never managed through centuries of enslavement." The chamber buzzed with agreement. Every species present had seen the evidence. Ships powered by voluntary luminary cooperation outperformed those using forced extraction. Colonies where humans and luminary worked together achieved technological advances that the hegemony's subjugation had never produced. Sarah stood to present Earth's proposal. "We gather here not to create a new empire, but to establish something unprecedented. A true partnership of species. The Concordat will be founded on principles of mutual respect, shared knowledge, and voluntary cooperation." The legislation they passed over the next few days transformed galactic society. The forced servitude of any sentient species was outlawed. Technology and knowledge would be shared freely between member worlds. Defense would be collective, with every species contributing their unique strengths to protect the whole. Most importantly, the Concordat established the principle that true advancement came through cooperation, not conquest. The luminary, once hunted and enslaved, would share their knowledge freely with any species that proved themselves worthy through their actions, not their might. As the final treaties were signed, Sarah found herself back at the observation deck, watching the combined fleet of former enemies now working together to patrol Concordat space. Human ships flew alongside vessels they had fought just a year ago, their crews learning from each other. "We're not naive," Torres said, joining her. "There will always be those who choose force over cooperation. The galaxy is vast, and old habits die hard. That's why we maintain our strength," Sarah replied. "But now it's strength with purpose. To protect, not dominate. To unite, not conquer." Aurora manifested between them, her glow reflecting off the station's panels. "You humans have been saying, the darkest hour comes just before dawn. We were in our darkest hour when you found us. Now we help bring dawn to the galaxy." Below them, Earth shone like a jewel against the black of space. Once considered a backwater world of primitive aliens, it had become the heart of a new galactic order. Not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the simple yet revolutionary idea that different species working together could achieve more than any empire built on force. The luminary no longer needed to hide. Humanity no longer needed to fear its place in the galaxy. And the other species were learning that true power came not from domination, but from the strength of willing hearts united in common cause. As ships from 100 worlds moved through space around the station, their lights twinkling like new stars, Sarah thought about the choice she'd made that day in the nebula. The price of mercy had been high, paid in lives and ships and resources, but its rewards had transformed the galaxy. The dawn of a new age had arrived, born from humanity's compassion and the luminaries' trust. Together, they had proven that the strongest bonds in the universe weren't forged by chains of conquest, but by hands joined freely in friendship and common cause. The galaxy would face new challenges, new threats, new attempts at dominion. But they would face them together, as equals, united not by force but by choice. And that, Sarah knew, was the greatest victory of all.